Hey guys, welcome back to the channel, man. The month of August is upon us. Why we're sitting inside is because it's really hot outside. So we're sitting inside in front of Boomer and Sooner, the guys in the aquarium. Got my laptop, got my Lowrance, and we are gonna break some lakes down for you. Where to start? Brought to you by Optima Batteries. You know, you got to have a battery in your truck, your vehicle, anywhere you go to start an adventure, you got to have a battery. So big thanks to Optima Batteries for sponsoring this video. With that said, let's give a battery away to last month's viewers. Bruce Millard, man, you're the one that we randomly picked. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you for commenting. That's how we picked you. So everybody watching this video, you got to leave me a comment so I can pick you to win an Optima battery, a blue top battery. It's really simple. It's the most awesome battery ever, and we'll mail you a certificate in the mail, and they'll mail you one right there. So leave me a comment. You might win the next Optima battery. We just did a video on the baits to throw in August. Now, I'm not saying they're the only baits, but they're some of the baits I want you to think about when you're fishing in August. We've talked about some smallmouth baits for suspended fish. We talked about a bait. The same bait works great for bass and spotted bass on suspended fish. We talked about baits to use on docks, and then we talked about getting up really early and baits to throw in the morning in the month of August. Go back and watch that video because it's really kind of important as I go off into where you're gonna go start on some of these lakes. So with that said, let's get started. The first lake that I am going to try to break down is a lake I've been on. Only one time, but I liked it. It's a really neat lake. Josh Murphy was one of them that gave us the suggestion, and that lake's Old Hickory. It's right there in Nashville. It's a super long lake. I haven't looked it up, but I think it's like 90 miles. Really long, really narrow. Fairly dirty water lake. You know, in Tennessee, you have lots of clean water lakes, but what I remember about Old Hickory, it's a fairly dirty water lake that has a lot of stained water in it. So let's break that thing down. So when I think of August, I think, the fishing's gotten tougher. It's just things are starting to change. The days, in my opinion, start to get shorter in August. Things are still super hot, but the oxygen level has gotten to be less. Wind's a really critical deal to make oxygen. Water coming into the bodies of water's a critical deal. Anytime they're generating, think about those things when you're picking places to start. But when I go to break down like Old Hickory Lake, I'm gonna just throw out a few areas where I think you can catch some fish in August. And right off the bat, these main lake flats right out here before you get to the dam, some of this stuff can be really, really good. It's good in June and July, but it's still good in August. There's gonna be schooling fish over some of this stuff. You can throw that topwater bait, up here shallow on some of these shelves, some of these points, and then as the day progresses, get out on some of these ridges, throw that flutter spoon, throw a big worm, a football jig, but just these sharp needle points and then these points up shallow would be some areas that I would look in the lower end of Old Hickory. Now, as we move up the lake, I would really pay attention. This is the time of the year that I start going to the backs of pockets, and especially pockets that have water coming in. When I go over here to Google Earth, I think one of these is a live creek. I didn't get to spend a lot of time studying this, but let's just check this out real quick. Yeah, that one right there, look at that thing. Let's just see what it does. Absolutely, that's a live creek. So I start looking at areas that have water running in year-round. This creek's a prime example. You've got water running in, it's going to be cooler. You've got a lay down there, a lay down right there. That is going to be a spot that I might not win a tournament, but I could go catch some fish underneath that bridge. Probably not getting a lot further past that, but I could catch a few fish back there, throwing a topwater, little buzz bait, a little finesse jig, flipping some of those logs, a square bill, making multiple casts. These fish have been fished for a long time, so I'd be making multiple casts. But that pattern right there of fishing those creeks that water is coming in, you can run that on this entire lake. And you can find those creeks that's got water coming in by looking on Google Earth. Like, when you look at this one here, I've never been in this one. It looks, what I like about it right off the bat, it's got a very shallow flat to get back here to deeper water. So that's gonna, you know, possibly keep some other people from trying to get in there. I mean, this flat is a little tricky to get across. You're gonna have to hug this right side, stay to this left side, or go over to this right side. Now that looks really good to me. A lot of people are gonna think this left side is the only spot that's deep water, but you actually have a little ditch right there. Let me think, that's north, south. It's not gonna be in the shade. I want you guys to think about shade also as this time of the year goes on. You know, that Chopo bait's a bait that you can tie on and start throwing all day long, throwing it in shade lines, you know, and Old Hickory's a great, great example of a place to do that. But kind of a cool little creek right there. Another live creek, you're gonna have some bridge pilings. It's gonna have shade. You got shade right there. Just a neat area to fish. I would also look on this lake at some of these main marina docks. Like when I zoom out right here and I look at this main marina right here, you know, this main marina is over some really deep water. Let's just see how deep water it's over right here. That is going to be right in there. So here we've got this breakwater right out here, this black line. Here's the dock, an old road bed, but all that's really over super deep water. And thus in August, you know, those fish are gonna be suspended. It gives them protection up, you know, right underneath those docks. It'll be a spot where, you know, you can throw a weightless general. It'll be a spot where you can throw a jig in there, let it go to the bottom. A spoon would probably be my best bait. You know, throwing a spoon, maybe a deep, you know, like a vibrating jig, letting it get down around it. But in the month of August is a time that I start looking for docks. And then when I start fishing those docks and I get a bite, I really pay attention to what type of banks they're on. On some Midwestern lakes like around here, the end of August, those docks that are on pea gravel, you know, those shallow pea gravel banks, those can be really, really good. And I would think it'd be the same out there in Tennessee on a lake like this if you have some pea gravel around. But those are a few areas on the lower end of the lake. You know, August is a great time, you know, fishing's tough. Any of those big tournament venues, you know, to fish in and around where they've released a lot of fish, you know, from tournaments all year long. Those are great areas to start. And then all the way up that river, you know, on Old Hickory, you know, you notice that the further I go up this river, the less development there is. In my opinion, the less pressure there is. You know, you have a lot less boat docks or boat ramps up here, a lot less boat docks, a lot less access to it. So any of these heads of these islands, the tails of these islands, these creeks that come in that flatten out in the back, those are going to be areas that I would start in the month of August, you know, super shallow, throwing that big worm that we talked about in the July or in the August video just before this last week, throwing a buzz bait, throwing that frog, throwing that top water, covering water, and just fishing shallow back ends of stuff. That's where I would go in the month of August, especially as we get towards the end of August. So that is Old Hickory, a cool lake, really long, really neat, really diverse. Just a few areas. I mean, I just touched on a few small areas there of areas where to start there on Old Hickory. And I want to thank you, Josh, for suggesting it, because I wouldn't have thought of Old Hickory, but it's a neat lake and it'd be a good lake to go fish in August. With that said, you know, you could also go right below the dam and fish the tail race. You know, there's a lot of water moving down there through the time, and it's a great area to go catch some fish. There'll be some smallmouth down there too that, you know, right below Old Hickory would be another great place to go try to catch some fish. All right, the next lake we're gonna do, we're gonna keep it here in the south. We're gonna go to Texas. Let's go to Lake Ray Hubbard. I got the suggestion from Jason Borofka. I gotta make sure I'm saying that name right. Jason Borofka. Borofka. I might be saying it wrong, Jason, but I apologize. They say my name Evers all the time. It's really Evers. So you probably understand that I butchered yours. Didn't mean to, but I appreciate you sending in Ray Hubbard. A great lake right there in the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex. Kind of a neat lake. I fished that thing a few times. What I think's neat about it is all the bridges in it. You know, it's got standing timber in it. It's got a really neat river system that comes in it. So let's break this down just a little bit. You know, the history that I know about Ray Hubbard, a lot of it all stems from this bridge right here, this marina, this section of the lake. It's just a really, really good section of the lake for whatever reason. it can be really, really good. You know, what I know about Texas, you know, riprap, just, you know, whatever reason, when you're in Texas, you just fish riprap, and it's just a great place to start day in, day out. If I had to pick one spot to start right off the bat in the morning, it would be on this stretch of riprap. Just start right here and go towards this marina, and there's always a lot of bass down through there. There's been times, you know, through the past years that this marina will have some hydrilla growing in it. It could be really good, you know, underneath those boat slips, those docks could be really, really good. You know, and then the dam itself could be really good. This stretch of riprap right over here could be really good. Any of those areas could be something to look at in the month of August. You know, if I was trying to pick a spot to start with a topwater lure, you know, we talked about that in the previous video. These tire reefs, you know, around these tire reefs would be a great place to start early in the morning. You can still start on that riprap early in the morning, then as the day progresses, move out a little bit deeper. And then last, you know, if I had to pick another place to start on Lake Ray Hubbard, you can't go to Ray Hubbard and not think about the river that comes in out of this lake right here. I forgot the name of it. I think is it Lavon? Why is it not showing up? Yeah, Lavon Lake. I was right. That'd be a cool place to start if I was on Lavon Lake, that little saddle right there. But this river that comes out of Lavon, you know, it's clean. It's just, there's just a lot of fish up there, guys. It's got grass in it. It's kind of hard to get to, which is a big plus also. You can see here as I go through Google Earth the different water levels. A couple different stretches here to go through. But, you know, it'd be a great area to go fishing, just to go catch some fish in August. I've said it before, you know, in July and August, September, when things are tough, anytime you can go to a river, whatever type of river it is, just a great area to go and to get started your day to get some bites. Honey? Really loud. My beautiful wife, I love her to death. She's making us some shakes in there, so I can't complain too much, but you could probably hear them in the audio, so we're gonna have a timeout for her to make these shakes. Yeah, I can hear it. Can you hear it? Thank you, honey.
How bad was it when I hit it?
We had to stop. One thing about, you know, going up in the rivers on these upper ends of these lakes, you know, especially here at Ray Hubbard, you got to be careful. You know, so when I switch over here to my C-map, my Contour C-map, one great thing about it is it shows you the timber lines, and it's really fairly accurate. You know, you can run outside these timber lines, follow these channels to help get you in those rivers. And when you get so far up here, you know, you just got to start idling because it's just timber. Yes, there's some pathways through here. You better know them before you try to get all the way up into that creek. But an area like that on any lake in August, you know, I've seen it on Lake Eufaula, Oklahoma, those creeks coming in on Lake Eufaula, Oklahoma in August. It can just be good. Any spot there's a little bit of moving water, it compresses things, it makes things a little easier for you to find. You know, when you get out over that deep water in the main lake and those fish are suspended, man, they can be anywhere. They can just, they're chasing shad. So I always try to compress my playing field in August, you know, inside a creek, in shallower pockets of water, whatever it may be, boat docks. That compresses my playing field to where they're just not out roaming over the lake chasing shad, because those are some of the hardest fish to stay on. All right, so, you know, those are just a few areas to start on Ray Hubbard, just something to get you to thinking about it. A neat lake's got some really big fish in it, can be kind of hard to catch. Again, this bridge, the bridge pilings, that's a great area to start, and up in the river. Just be careful. Okay, so from Ray Hubbard, let's go up north to the followers that we got up north. You know, we always try to mix this up a little bit, and the lake that I'm choosing, I'm trying to say it right, is Houghton Lake, Houghton. It's in Michigan, way up there in northern Michigan. I got to fish it one time just for fun one day. It was a lot of fun. And what I remember about it was we caught a lot of largemouth, a lot of 3-pound, 3.5-pound largemouth, caught a few 4-pounders. And that day, it was in August, and we caught those fish flipping clumps of grass just with a, you know, 3/4 or a 1-ounce jig or a heavy punching weight. And it was all out here in the middle. When I look at my C-map right here, I have to think it would have been right out in this area here that's showing all this grass. You know, that was there the year I was there. It may have been, it was just a big, massive area out in the middle that had grass. Maybe it was this thing right here. Now looking at this, you know, it could have been that, all could have been grass, but it was just a ball of fun. I remember we caught some fish on a frog out there also. Just a really, really, really cool lake. But with that said, let's talk about a few other areas. When I look at this lake and I see all these canals, you know, anytime we get any wind blowing there, you know, let's say that wind's really blowing, you know, I'd have to think in Michigan it's blowing either from one Great Lake to the other or one Great Lake to the other. So it's either blowing this way, it's blowing this way. It's going to create a lot of current in these mouths of these canals. You know, just anywhere you have those mouths of those canals, it could create a lot of current. You know, I think there's another big mouth right here that all this water is just going to be flushing in and out as that wind is blowing. It's just a great place to start, just right there. It's going to be a little bit deeper hole. You can see it there on the map. And it just, in my opinion, would be a really, really good place to start just for fish in and around that current. You know, another thing that I would think about going to this place, when I studied it here on Google Earth, this big sand flat down in the bottom. Look at these holes right here out in that sand. I think that's holes because when I go back in time or go forward in time, they're always still there. So, I mean, that's, I don't know, 8 years ago. It's not a grass bed. I think those are some sort of holes. I don't know. Fish have to relate to that somehow, some way. They just do. And then these docks. I mean, good night. Look at all the docks you guys have. You know, August, fish are moving shallow. They are going to be in these docks big time. And how to differentiate, you know, like one dock from the other. One, look for isolated docks. Maybe look for a dock that sticks out a little further. This dock right here on top of this ridge has to be really good. It's going to be shallower than any of the others. You know, just if we moved across to the other side of the lake to see what some docks look like over here. Again, we got all these holes. These must be some sort of dredge holes for them to build something in here. But just trying to break docks down here before I get sidetracked. You know, look at this dock right here. It almost touches that deep water. Let's see if I can get a little bit better photo. That dock right there almost touches the deep water. That one almost touches the deep water. That one almost touches the deep water. Those are going to be key docks. That one. Those would be docks that I would start on. That one right there. Places like that. Something that's different. You just got to think outside the box a little bit. Look at this right here. Look at this water coming in right here. You know, you can see that there's a swamp or something feeding that coming through. That would be a great place to start. It's something different, something outside the box. When you scroll all the way down through here looking at stuff. Again, we got another system feeding. You got water coming in would be a great place to start because it's different. Those docks would be good. You can see that current's bringing it down right through there. But what I remember about this lake, it was really, really neat, really diverse. It's got big smallmouth in it too. I heard at the time, I haven't been there since. If I was trying to find some of those smallmouth, they're gonna be out here on these sand edges somewhere, you know, maybe on some of those drop-offs. This point right here, you know, somewhere out here, or any of those isolated rock beds that you might have out in the lake. Could be anywhere out there. You know, smallmouth that time of the year, they're roaming. You need to be looking for the birds. Anywhere you see birds sitting on the water, flying over the water, that would be areas that I would start for those smallmouth. And that would be a spot that spy bait would really come in that we talked about. So those are just some areas to start. By no means they're the only. There's still other things that'll work, but I just wanted to get you guys to thinking, you know, just somewhere to maybe throw a cast, put your boat in, walk the bank, kayak, whatever it is, get out there and get started in the month of August. You know, one thing to remember, let's reiterate a couple key points about August. Get out there early. Think about boat docks. Think about fish being suspended. Those are three things that you can always think about in the month of August that it is what it is. So, you know, fishing can be tough, but it also can be very good. And when I say talking about those birds will really give away a lot of those locations of those suspended fish that can be so hard to find. So I hope this helps you guys. be sure you comment, be sure you're a subscriber, and we'll go through there. We'll randomly pick a battery winner for next month, and we'll tell you where to start in the month of September, and hopefully it's helping you guys. Appreciate you following along. Have a great week.